within the medical education, the first point that I want to emphasize is that simulation is not a tool on its own, but it is one of the tools that we have in medical education. So it's not a separate entity. Many of us might think that life support courses or something that's happening in the sim lab. But in terms of medical education, whenever we start anything, we talk about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and this is similar to the Maslow's hierarchy of need, but it is the online hierarchy of need. With COVID, all our mandatory teaching came to an end almost, but this virtual space gave us educators and learners an existence. We feel safe. We are all afraid of hands, but uh, raising hands, meeting people in this kind of environment gives us safety. And we'll talk about safety repeatedly in simulation because it is physical safety, psychological safety, and a space where you can do something which is not going to harm patients, and at the same time you can take risks. So telling the example of Twitter, when we initially join, we don't know how exactly to interact. We start learning the tools, and then we start consuming the available resources, and we join communities which are of interest to us. And finally, we start collaborating with people who have similar interests, and that collaboration is what I want you to take from my talk. So once you start collaborating, that will increase the knowledge, and finally you'll be part of a creative community. What I want you to do is learning versus teaching is one of the conflict which teachers have when we facilitate, or when you will facilitate, that you want to say something but your learners perceive something else. So I want you to tell me, what is your objective for this session, the next 15 minutes? What do you want to learn about simulation? The other thing I want you to ponder is that simulation is not the beginning of the thing. You are faced with a challenge, for example COVID, and people don't know how to dawn when there is a cardiac arrest in COVID circumstances. So that is the issue, that is the knowledge gap. And your learning objective is to give that knowledge as well as the skill. So you think about different tools. Can I give a lecture? Can I just put a photo? Can I just make a video? Oh no, simulation probably is better if I do it within the dawning area. So you employ simulation because it is appropriate, feasible, and accessible for that particular question that you have, that particular learning objective. Then you decide which kind of simulation shall I use. There are so many options. You can make a video and have a 360-degree uh, experience, or you can even do an in situ simulation within your own department. I want you to hold a thought. Look at the screen properly. What you're seeing, you are going to assist your faculty locally. So what will be the three most important requirements which will be required for designing a sim session? You have already seen the room in 360. Think about the room and think about things which are not present in the room. And the tips are environment, knowledge, and people. So we were, most of us did mention about the environment. The equipment needs to be checked, and very often we do have like bleeps, people with bleeps coming into sessions, and a lot of interruptions. So we need to think about interruptions. We need to have a safe venue again. We need to send emails to people and prime them. But in the end of the day, the most important thing is the learning objective again. So the learning outcomes need to be set, and you need to design the scenario with all the possibilities and progression based on the learning objectives. And you need to engage your learners. You know that this is fiction, but at the same time, there should be a buy-in. People should not be in a position that they're only thinking this is fiction, and the more realism comes in, the more they will take from it. So it has to be a safe place, both physically and psychologically, so that they can explore and learn. And finally, the instruction should all be pre-designed, uh, and should be known and accepted by all the people who are involved. It's not like one facilitator knows something and he's going to do something and the other facilitator doesn't know, and that way it won't work. So we have the set. And then debriefing probably is the most important area where we as facilitators can help the learners, or we have a role to play. So the first thing we already heard in the feedback, emotions are very difficult to actually judge or to comment on, but that's always a good start as to how they felt. Was it very stressful? Was it was it not? Was it very easy? Was it very difficult? And then moving on to description, we did talk about judgment during the feedback session. We always talk in simulation about good judgment because we can never be non-judgmental, but the aim of the judgment should be our learning objective and what do the learners want to take. And finally, you might have a red mark on your sim man, which you want to look like a wound, but someone may go in and think it is a birthmark. So we need to have a shared mental model, and that needs to be clarified in a simulation. And as we discussed about advocacy and inquiry in the previous session as well, uh, it should be by asking questions as to why you did this. Why do you think your team leader thought it was a non-shockable rhythm? And questions like this, which will clarify the whole situation, and a shared mental model would be encouraged. And in the end, to apply all that we have learned and to make them align with the learning objectives. So two important concepts that I would want to say. One is recontextualization. So we have done a lecture on how to dawn during COVID circumstances. That's not going to help when you actually are faced with that challenge. But if you do a simulation within your dawning area, that is easier to recontextualize. So recontextualization is a very key issue, and that is what differentiates SIM as a tool from any other tool. So that is one of the things. And secondly, peer debriefing, faculty amongst themselves talking between each other and to help each other to develop and to have strategies based on the feedback that is provided by the learners so that the next session gets better. Environment is a very important thing because that gives you safety amongst the learners. But notice the way this in the dialogue screen, how people have arranged themselves around the table. It's very important in a simulation debriefing how people are sitting and how the thoughts are being exchanged, and that differentiates it very much from a lecture or any other form of teaching. And absolutely, as I mentioned earlier, feedback is important for the learners to reflect on what they have done, as well as for the facilitators to improve the session next time. We also have in situ simulation sessions in various parts within the East of England region. And for doing all this, collaboration is the key. And as I mentioned, objectives are going to differ between the facilitators, learners, and inquiry and advocacy is one of the best tools. Safe debriefing is our responsibility, and it should be psychologically safe as well as a safe environment in terms of for the learners. So how do we build a community? So co-facilitation is the key terminology here. We need to get to know who is the faculty, who are the people who are experts in our own trust or our local area of practice. This is where I want to focus on the discovery area, where novice and advanced beginners, they come to know about the aspects of simulation. They have heard it, they know about it, now they want to grow. And to grow in competence, they are collaborating with different kind of people. They have formed a virtual community of learning, and then they move on to maturity. So this is a very key foundation area, and that is what we are trying to activate. So this is just a prime for simulation so that we get interested in it and more people get to join. I really like this pyramid, which has been taken and modified from Levin Wenger's community of practice. For a virtual community of practice, we need people who have shared passion. They need to come together, and virtual media is a very good medium for us to interact. and we need to advance our learning. So there are a lot of resources. Very briefly, I really like the simulation podcast. It is a simulcast on iPhone or Android, and there is a lot of stuff that you can hear there. You have simulcast 101, which gives you the basics of simulation. Finally, what I wanted to say is teaching and learning are different, but we had some objectives from you, and I just wanted to emphasize that virtual presentation, virtual simulation is possible. There are a lot of online tools. It would be really nice to know what is the one thing that you have taken from this session. Thank you so much, and I will be really happy if you collaborate with us